Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's Alex Camerari with the Alex Camerari team at Keller Williams Real Estate, where we help create and aid neighbors. I want to make this quick video and just talk to you briefly about something I was thinking about this morning and even last night. I wanted to talk about uh, frugality, being frugal. Specifically, I want to talk about buying houses versus buying cars. Now, why is this important? Because buying houses and buying cars, they're two things that are necessities in our modern society. Cars, depending on where you live, you might be able to go throughout your days. If you're in like a major metropolitan area, you might not need a car. But for the rest of us that don't live in major metropolitan cities, you need a car. And everybody needs a roof over their head, whether they live with family or they own or they rent. Everybody needs a roof over their head. So these are two things that are both necessities in modern culture. But one of them, I'm going to show you, it's important to prioritize one over the other, even though both are necessities. What am I talking about? Cars, just like houses, come in different sizes, different levels of quality, different levels of luxury, if you will. However, there's a huge difference between a car and a house. That huge difference is the long-term value of those two things. What do I mean? When you look at a house and a car, they're both needed, but one of them will appreciate over time, sometimes very quickly. The other one will depreciate over time, always very quickly. So they actually move in two opposite directions over time. A car, as you know, if you've purchased a car, you know that you'll pay, let's say, $40,000 for that car. And as soon as you drive it off the lot, you have now used part of the engine, you have actually taken away from the value. How are cars value determined? Based on the amount of miles that are on it, as well as the condition of the exterior, things like that. But every time you use your car, you are actually reducing the value of that car. And unless it is a rare car or some kind of antique car, for the everyday car that you're going to use to get around on a daily basis, you are always going to lose with a car. Okay, you're going to spend that $40,000, and within a year, that $40,000 purchase is what you purchase is now going to be worth probably 30,000, then the next year 20,000. And that's why by the end of your 4 or 5 year loan, you go to trade it in and you're going to be told, we'll give you 5 grand for it. All right. 5 grand on something that you spent 40 grand on just 5 years ago. So again, cars depreciate always, and they start depreciating right away. Real estate, on the other hand, again, another necessity, is actually the opposite. Real estate real estate appreciates over time, and sometimes it can appreciate very quickly. You can purchase a house for $100,000, and there can be some new economic development that happens in the neighborhood, and now all of a sudden that $100,000 house is worth a $150,000 house. It's gained value very quickly. Now, it doesn't always happen like that. I don't want to paint a false picture. You can have times where there's a shift in the market right when you purchase. So you purchase something that's worth 100, the market shifts, and now a year later it's worth 75,000. That does happen. However, if you wait it out, maybe another 2 years, it's going to go back up to 100 and then maybe 125, 150. So in the long run, real estate, you win. It appreciates. Why am I saying this? Well, there are always going to be outside pressures that try to dictate, because we live in a world that's saturated with marketing ploys, and on your social media pages you can't scroll through for 2 seconds without seeing an advertisement for the latest and greatest. But anything that is advertised to you that is trying to entice you to purchase it, you need to ask yourself, what is the long-term value of this purchase, right? What's the end game? So because we live in a market that's just saturated with advertising, you need the latest and greatest. Sometimes the priorities, what we prioritize in purchasing, can become skewed. And you begin to say, you know what? I do want a luxury car. And you know what? I don't want any luxury car. I want a Mercedes Benz, and I want the brand new Mercedes Benz because you know what? It's got this sick thing where you can press a button, it'll parallel park for you on its own, and it sounds so cool. And I'm not saying don't do those things if you have the means, but we do that, and we'll gladly put down $2, $3, $4,000 to get that car, and we'll gladly pay $600, $700 a month for that car, so that in 5 years it can be worth 10% of what you initially bought it for. Now, does that seem like it's a good investment? I don't think so. What am I getting at here? I want to talk about briefly a principle that comes out of the book, The Millionaire Next Door. Okay, if you're familiar with that book, it is really good. If you haven't read it yet, pick it up. Just some little hacks, life hacks that can help get you on the road to being a millionaire. And one of the things it talks about is, not buying that brand new luxury car. If you want a luxury car, buy one that's a couple years older, so most of the depreciation has already been absorbed, and then that way you're buying it at a discount and you're not spending top dollar for it. I wanted to share some numbers with you, right? So, on average, people are gonna buy a car, and their loan is gonna be for 4 or 5 years, right? If you go after that luxury car because you want the latest and greatest thing, you want the status of I drive a brand new Mercedes Benz, I am awesome. If that's super important to you, and you want that mystique about you, and you go out, you buy that car, let's just say that you are going to spend $600 per month, okay? You're going to spend $600 per month, and let's say you're going to spend that for 4 years, right? So by the end of that 4 years, you're going to have $600 a month times 12. That's $7,200 a year times 4. 28,000 invested into this car. Okay. Now that's obviously not the price of a brand new Mercedes Benz, but just follow me here. Okay. So you go that route. You want that $600 a month car note because you want the status. You want to be that guy, right? But because you've taken on that debt, okay, you might not be able to qualify for the type of mortgage that you want because you have a certain level of income, and what you're able to qualify for a mortgage is determined by your debt to income ratio. In other words, how much is left over from your income after you minus out your debts. So you want that high debt every month for that car because you have to have this awesome car. It can actually hinder how much you're able to qualify for a loan. All right. Now, leave that aside. Let's say instead of saying, I want that brand new car, you say, you know what? Status and my appearance isn't really super important to me. I don't feel this pressure. I have to keep up with the Joneses. I have to be relevant. I have to have status. I'm going to go buy a 2015 Honda Accord with low mileage on it, certified pre-owned Honda Accord. Okay, good solid car. And instead of having a $600 a month payment, okay, let's say you have a $300 a month payment for the same length of time, the 4 years that I illustrated with the other car. So now what you've done, instead of having $600 a month, okay, going towards this car that you are making basically an emotional purchase on, you only have a car note of $300 a month, and then you commit to, because you're living below your means, you have a surplus in your income, okay? You have more left over from your income, I should say. Now you commit to, I'm going to save $300 a month, okay? I'm going to put that in a savings account. So because you're able to save $300 a month, that's 300 times 12, that's $3,600 a year for the same 4 years. Now you have $14,400 saved up. And I can tell you, with that money, you can either, if you are renting currently, okay, that is more than enough to purchase a home using what's called an FHA loan with 3.5% down, get some seller assist mixed in there. You have more than enough to buy a house in just 4 short years by making a choice not to go after status, not to go after appearance, but to make a wise, frugal decision. Okay. Or if you already have a house, but you want to budget, you want to save money, maybe to buy an investment property. Uh, you can now you have $14,000. If you buy a single family house, you can get that house for about 15% down. Get a little seller assist in there too, up to 2%. Depending on the price of the home, you probably have about 3/4 of what you need saved up in those 4 years to buy that investment property, and now have an asset that, unlike a car that's going to automatically depreciate over time, an asset that's going to appreciate over time that is actually going to help fund your retirement. Okay, so I hope this is helpful to somebody. I just wanted to bring out a simple reality that just making choices and just changing your priorities, maybe from being, hey, I got to have the coolest thing, to, you know what, let me make a decision for my future. Okay, no shame in having a Honda Accord, because you know what, if you make the choice to do that, at the end of that period of time, you're going to have something worth 100, 200, $300,000, while the person that went and wanted to keep up with the Joneses, they're going to have a car that's worth a quarter of what they originally paid for, or probably less. Okay, so just an important thing here I wanted to bring out. Budgeting is important, and then the path to wealth is spend less than you make and invest the difference. It's that simple. And I just wanted to give a quick example of that. So I hope you found that beneficial. And thanks for tuning in.